I never thought a single evening could unravel everything I believed about my life. But as I parked across the street, heart hammering, I saw her, my wife, in another man's arms. Not in a fleeting hug, not in a casual laugh, but in a way that spoke of intimacy, of secrets I had never been invited to share. My chest tightened. My world tilted. The streetlight above them cast long shadows, and I watched, frozen in disbelief, as the man leaned close, whispering something that made her laugh, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, trying to convince myself that I must be imagining it. But the sight was painfully real, and my stomach churned with a betrayal I couldn't yet name. I left the car running, not daring to move, not daring to call out. I wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like, that there was some innocent explanation I couldn't yet see. But deep down I knew. I had always been sensitive to the little changes. The missed dinners, the sudden interest in weekends away with friends, the late-night texts she quickly hid whenever I entered the room. I had brushed them off, blaming my paranoia, my own insecurities. But now, standing on the sidewalk, the truth pressed against me like a heavy storm cloud. When she finally pulled away from him, her eyes scanning the street as if searching for something, or someone, my chest constricted. She didn't see me. She never would have imagined I was there, invisible, witnessing a betrayal that seemed too vast to even process. For a moment I considered driving away, leaving the house, leaving her, leaving everything. But some cruel force tethered me in place, demanding that I see it all unfold. The ride home was silent. My hands shook on the steering wheel, knuckles aching from the tight grip. I replayed the scene over and over, each time with more detail. The casual brush of his hand against hers, the way her head tilted toward him, the subtle smile she reserved for strangers and lovers but never for me. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sky was a dull, oppressive gray. The house looked the same, but the walls suddenly felt alien. Inside she greeted me as usual, her voice light, unaware, or pretending to be, that my world had shattered. "Hey," she said. "How was your day?" I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand answers. Instead I nodded, forcing a hollow smile. "Fine. Just tired." She didn't press further, and I wondered if she ever would. Or maybe she already knew that I knew, and this was her test, watching me, waiting to see how much I could endure. I retreated to the bedroom, shutting the door behind me, letting the tears come, letting the hurt roll over me in waves. I thought about leaving her, about packing a bag and walking away forever. But then something unexpected happened. A small, inexplicable hope that maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe there was still a chance for honesty, for repair, for some kind of understanding. The thought felt naive, even foolish, but I clung to it anyway. The next few days were unbearable. I moved through the house like a ghost, watching her, listening for hints, noticing the tiny details that now seemed like confessions. The lingering scent of perfume on her wrist, the way her phone vibrated more frequently, the subtle avoidance of eye contact. Every smile she gave me now felt like a lie, every word a carefully constructed mask. I tried to confront her, but my voice faltered. "Are you seeing someone?" I asked one evening, my hands trembling as I held her gaze. She froze, her expression unreadable, and I felt a flash of fear. Then, with a calmness that felt rehearsed, she shook her head. "No. I don't know why you'd think that." But the look in her eyes, the hesitation, the flicker of something unspoken, told me otherwise. I wanted to leave right then, to strip away the pretense and walk out of the life I had spent years building. But I stayed, caught between rage and longing, betrayal and hope. I started noticing things more acutely. Small messages on her laptop, odd coincidences, the way she laughed a little too brightly when talking about her friend. Each detail was a needle, pricking at the fabric of my trust. I began documenting everything, not out of revenge but out of a desperate need to make sense of the chaos. One evening I followed her. I couldn't help myself. My hands shook as I parked across the street from the cafe she had mentioned in passing. Through the window, I saw her again, sitting across from the same man, their knees brushing under the table, her hand occasionally touching his arm. My chest felt as if it had been cleaved open. I turned the key in the ignition, unsure whether I wanted to storm in or drive away forever. And then, just as suddenly, she was gone. She left the cafe without him, her expression unreadable as she walked briskly down the street. My instinct was to follow, to confront, to demand the truth, but something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was fear, maybe it was the realization that seeing her betray me over and over would not heal me. It would only hollow me further. When she returned home that night, the air between us was thick with unspoken words. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain I had been carrying. But I stayed silent, retreating to the bedroom once again, letting the night swallow me in its quiet despair. Days passed in a blur. I drifted through routines, mechanical and empty. And then one evening she came to me, her eyes wet, voice trembling in a way that shattered my defenses. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, sitting at the edge of the bed, her hands wringing together. "I made a mistake. I've been seeing someone." The words fell like stones, each one heavy, each one confirming the reality I had been bracing for. I felt the room tilt, my mind spinning with memories of laughter that felt hollow, touches that now seemed tainted. "Why?" I asked, the single word barely escaping my lips. She took a shaky breath. "I don't know. I was lonely, stupid, and I let it happen. I didn't mean to hurt you, not really. I got lost. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to scream, to turn away, to close the door on everything. But even in the face of betrayal, part of me still loved her. Part of me still remembered the quiet mornings we spent together, the way she laughed at my terrible jokes, the way she held my hand during thunderstorms. "I can't just forget this," I said finally, my voice raw. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again." "I know," she whispered. "And I don't expect you to. I had to be honest before it was too late." Her confession didn't erase the pain, but it did something unexpected. It opened a door. A fragile, trembling door that whispered of the possibility of repair, of understanding, of something resembling hope. We spent hours talking that night, navigating a minefield of emotions, regrets, and confessions. I listened as she explained the cracks that had formed in our marriage, the loneliness that had crept in unnoticed, the moments of doubt and weakness that had led her astray. And I spoke, too, about the hurt I had been carrying, the fear of losing her, the anger I had barely contained. It was brutal. It was raw. It was everything I had feared. And yet, through the tears and the trembling hands, I began to see a path forward. Not an easy path, not a guaranteed one, but a path where honesty replaced deception, where pain could lead to understanding, where betrayal could become a lesson in resilience. The days that followed were not easy. Trust had to be rebuilt, brick by brick. I watched her closely, cautious but willing to believe. She changed, not perfectly, not instantly, but genuinely. She made choices that reflected remorse, accountability, and a desire to heal what she had broken. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the tight knot in my chest began to loosen. Months later, we sat together on the porch, a quiet evening stretching before us. I reached for her hand, and she took it without hesitation. No grand declarations, no sweeping gestures, just the simple acknowledgement of shared pain and the choice to try again. "I thought we were done," I admitted softly, staring at our intertwined fingers. "We were," she said, her voice steady now. "But sometimes, even when everything seems lost, there's a chance to find each other again." I nodded, the weight of the past still lingering but no longer crushing. Love wasn't erased by betrayal, but it was reshaped, tested, and strengthened by the trials it endured. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if we would ever be the same. But for the first time in weeks I felt a fragile, trembling hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, our marriage could survive. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm light across our porch, I realized something I hadn't before. Sometimes the darkest moments reveal the brightest truths. Sometimes witnessing the end is what allows you to find the beginning again. I had watched her in another man's arms, and I thought our marriage was over. But in the quiet aftermath, in the honesty and the willingness to face the truth, I found her, and myself waiting. Not perfect, not untouched, but real. And that perhaps was enough.